especially at local levels. And if they're willing to wait 9 minutes, I'm certainly willing to wait 9 minutes and then hope for the best. Statistically, who's going to win between Seth and I?
Seth.
Thank you for the vote of confidence, but no, it is Seth. So that's really important. And again, we're talking about tactics and strategy, and I won't say gimmicks, but it depends. You're evaluating your opponent, you're evaluating your strengths, your weaknesses, their strengths, their weaknesses, the opportunities and the threats. And in business, we call that SWOT analysis. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and whatever I said. Okay. Weakness, opportunity, and threat. Okay. So those are 4 things that we're going to put in the box a little later. But basically, you're going to evaluate them, and you're going to say, okay, from everything in my experience, and if you only have 2 years experience, that's going to be different from somebody that has 35 years experience. You're going to put it within your framework of what you've done before, and say this is going to be the best. You're going to provide the best outcome starting out. Now, if Seth gets the first touch, then that blows everything. I may still wait till the last 15 seconds to try to tie it up, but that's not a winning strategy, I don't think. Conversation. Come here.
Use that chair.
Okay, so let's have a conversation. What do you think about the Java programming language?
Interesting.
Why is it interesting?
Because it sounds interesting.
Did you know that it runs everywhere on any platform, right? Once, runs many times?
No.
Sit down. So, I initiated the conversation. I used my skills. Yeah, I thought you'd think that's funny. I had to think of something really fast. I initiated the conversation. I initiated the topic of the conversation. I now have control over the conversation because I know basically what his responses are going to be. Same thing in fencing. If I press his blade, that's initiating an attack. It might be an invitation attack, but I'm initiating the engagement, expecting a reasonable conversation on the topic of my choice, not my opponent's. Yeah.
What if they just change it entirely?
Then you back out.
Can't hear.
Then you back out. Oh, the question is, what happens if they change topics on you? Which they can, and that's the reciprocal of what you need to do. Is you just open the distance up. How you doing?
Or in some cases when your conversation is just a little too complex for the other person.
Oh, okay. So the other part of that metaphor, I love conversations as metaphor. So, you're talking to a baby. Well, what do you think of Java? Well, it's obvious. It's obvious that you can't have a conversation with a baby. You just spank it. Okay? You don't have a conversation with a baby. Now, and a teenager, oh my God. Okay, so, yeah, you laugh, Cal. So I should say a youth. A youth, say an 8-year-old, you're going to have a little bit more of a conversation, but you can actually trick them in their conversation, right? But maybe what you don't want to do is run into the house to trick them and trip on their toy skates. All right. So the point being is that you need to understand who your opponent is and how much of the conversation they understand. Now, normally, if it's a baby, some newbie in epee, you can just go and hit them with simple, very simple actions. All right. Then you get somebody that's a little more experienced, a couple of years. If they're trained, they're easier to fence than if they're untrained. Quirky is harder to fence than well trained. So, quirky fencers, brought up by wolves. That's the metaphor. They are functional, and they get the job done, but they figured out how to do it on their own, and maybe your rote responses are not appropriate or applicable, and that's a really important concept too. And again, this is the local level. At the top level, everybody's trained really well. There are some quirky fencers at the world level, don't get me wrong. But a quirky fencer is like kind of like a baby. You've got to keep it simple. We go back to physical fitness. It doesn't matter if you're 20, you put 20 years in, and you've got all these skills. Your skills are based upon a certain set of rote responses to what you've been trained and what you've been practicing. They're not going to give you that. And even the trained fencers, if you have not run into the style before, if you haven't run into a French fencer or a German fencer or a Russian fencer, or in the United States we tend to have all these melded techniques, but they're a little cleaner in Europe. I should say a lot cleaner. And you can recognize what coach and what line of coaches have provided the training for these people. And that's one of the things that you have to get used to. And it doesn't matter whether it's foil or saber or epee. You need to learn about what the other actions are. Sometimes a cleaner, simpler style is more effective because it will hit a range of these types of fencers, as opposed to being pure German or French, right? So I would say that when you're having the conversation, you want to initiate the conversation. You want to pick the topic. You want to pick the topic that you're an expert in. If you're an expert in, I'm going to press forward, you're going to disengage and close the line and hit you, that's the conversation you want to have, right? So, the other part of that is, come up here. Aren't you glad you decided to stay?
Yes.
All right. So, on guard. Go to guard. Okay, I have a full extension here. Maybe. Bump. Who initiated? Okay. My hand's just out here. I'm not really attacking him. What am I doing?
Inviting.
Yes, I am. But I'm still initiating. Go ahead, thank you. I'm still initiating the action. I want you to take my blade so I can feel where your blade is, and then I can do what I want with it. On guard like this, I am inviting you to press my blade or take my blade. Still, different way to do the invitation. Or I can do what I like to do is beat the blade and flush. Still, it's initiation. One's a little more one's passive, one's active. But you want to initiate the conversation. You want to choose a topic. You don't want you to let your opponent. The time that you're having that conversation is middle to long distance. So once you go from long distance where no one's hitting to a distance where somebody can be hit, the topic has been chosen. You want to be the one to choose the topic. Does that make sense to everyone? So even if you're a beginner, but you have great skills in a particular area, if you can choose the topic and execute that skill, you'll have great success. Especially if you have great physical fitness and footwork. That just adds to it. Okay?
That works in foil too, and saber also.
Well, a lot of those things are true, and I'm not getting into specific mechanicals on how you do what actions, because again, I'm going to leave that up to coaches. Physical fitness, leave that up to the trainers. All right, basic squat. Okay, so what I've done here is broken this down to maybe help you think about these things. Your arms, your legs, your reach. You have longer. You got a plus there. My arm's longer. Not true, because I don't have a longer arm against anybody. If I'm posting, maybe that gives me maybe an advantage, unless the other guy's posting too. So you take a look at these things. So your legs, you got longer legs. You take a look at these things. You know, how far can I go? What's my reach? There's some other things involved here, but this is basic. Basic. You have speed. Speed of legs is different from speed of blade work. There are some people that don't move at all because they've been fencing with their blade all through their lives, and they've been so fast that they can get away with it. And then there's the really good fencers that have fast legs and fast hands and accurate at the same time. What?
What if you're a minus in each box?
Find another sport.
Well, this is on an opponent by opponent basis, number one. And number two, maybe you use that, what I was talking about. You wait the 9 minutes and get that one Hail Mary in there to win the bout. Again, DE, black or white, win or lose. So here's a what would you do? Let's see. So your arms are longer, your legs are shorter. It's kind of Janet.
Gross.
Your speed and the arms are slower, and your legs are slower. So what would you do? What would you? So the only thing in the positive there is
Disengage. Points
only
in
thing you
line.
have is your arm. It's longer. Okay.
You want to stay out of distance.
And you want them to attack,
Right.
and you want to step back and hit.
And hit on the deceleration.
On there, yeah, the timing is everything. So, I mean, if you take a look at that, for me, that's obvious. As a coach, and in strip coaching, I'd say that's something to look at as a strategy. How you execute on the tactics might be different. But you need to take a look at all this. I mean, you physically, your opponent is going to tell you a lot of things because they're going to be adapting to their physical being as well. So again, you have a longer arm, but you're shorter legs, and in terms of footwork, you don't have the big lunge. You're slower in your footwork than your opponent, and your speed and your hand speed is in arm speed. And hand speed and arm speed are two different things too, but I didn't go into that. So your manipulation of the blade with staying right here has a certain speed, but so does the arm extension as well. So I just grouped it down there. So again, if it's 0-0, time's running out, time runs out. Guess what? Priority. What if you get the flip and you have priority?
Then it's your game plan.
Then you go back to your game plan. Yeah. Now, what's going to happen here is you go in with a strategy, and it's going to change. I guarantee, because they're going to adapt to your tactics and strategy that you have. So they're going to see it and change. If they don't change. Just beat them. Okay. Patterns. We talked about earlier about Skinner and how we develop habits and patterns. If you want in the pools, you should look at all the bouts in your pool. You should write it down because if you want to optimize your results, you want to see what the other fencers are getting, what they're being cued off of. So you're watching and you notice that doing a certain action draws another action. You go, I can take advantage of that. Now the key here of being a great fencer is that you have to reproduce that cue. That's hard. That's hard. But it's just like a coach. As a coach, I give you a cue, you give me a response. If I see you do something wrong, I give you the cue that shows that you're doing it wrong, and then I hit you. Fair enough? So you watch and you document, you say, this guy, the footwork, and by the way, this is a great time to watch to see how far they can actually lunge and how far they can really go. And what their reach is and what their Hail Mary or unexpected response is. And you can document that. And you don't go in there with 50 things. You go, these are the 2 or 3 things I want to look at. Because I guarantee if you've got it written down, there's going to be some persistent memory there, and it'll be in the back of your mind for the rest of the bout to pull out at some degree. Okay. Subtlety versus brute force. So, depending on who I'm fencing, and again, we're talking about the sectional to national level. We're not talking about international level fencers at this point. Depending upon who you're fencing, they're going to react differently. And so brute force, a good example is boom, boom. Okay? Kind of German style. But, or what I like to do, and I'll admit this to this entire group, and Bill knows it, Bill drives me crazy. He has the fastest hand, and he can see me coming a mile away. Bill and I are on the strip. We are best friends, but I am there to win, and he is there to win. We'll go have a beer later, but that's not the point. We're living in the moment. And I know he's got a fast hand, so I'll flick to his hand whether it hits or not. And that's really, really mean, and I'm not recommending it, but that's an example of being brutal, right? And then, but he leaves it out there. What can I say? So, and finesse, on the other hand, is so you can beat the blade to get a reaction, or you can just press the blade. People are phobic about you touching their blade. You don't even have to touch it hard. And in fact, touching it, yes. In fact, pressing the blade really gently is enough for them to react slowly so you can accelerate.
Good idea.
So you can do it both ways. It depends on who you're dealing with. Again, if you're talking to a baby, you're gonna just smack them. If you're talking to a teenager, you may just press the blade and they go, "Ooh, don't touch me." And they do, and then you get a reaction that you can work with, and then you work with that reaction as a second intent. Okay, I'm going to reiterate.
TJ.
Keep it simple. You get
Can
you
you
get
make
too
your knees?
wrapped up in all this
Come back
thinking,
here.
you're going to end up getting hit.
Kneel on the ground and lean against this.
Okay, I've talked about opportunity.
okay, that's
An
another one.
opportunity is an opportunity unless you can take advantage of it. So if your opponent's making a mistake and you can't use it, then ignore it. Don't try to force yourself into that mistake, because if you can't take advantage of it, it turns into your mistake. Okay, we talked about the longer reach. So here's a couple about scenarios. You have considerably longer reach. What's your strategy? Maybe keeping it simple, doing absence of blade. Anybody have any questions about those two statements, about what absence of blade constitutes? Rolling off versus taking. Your opponent is a better fencer than you, but they don't know anything about you. Okay, so, okay. This is really important. This is a local level, and I really want to talk about high level, but, you know, so there's a difference there in my body language. It's like I'm going like this. He is going to get a different thing in his mind. He's going to, oh shit. Okay, now he's serious. Now he's ready to go. I got to open it up. Well, I'm not as good a fencer right in that scenario, so he's not going to attack me. So I can use that other scenario where I wait it out. Sit down. And some of the people in this room like standing up to invite an attack. I don't recommend it. Yeah, Alex. Okay, your opponent's an aggressive fencer and likes to attack. Come up with some solutions here. What would some of the solutions be? They're going to attack and they're good at it. Good answer.
What would he say?
Attack them first.
Action beats reaction.
Huh?
Action beats reaction.
Yes, and that's basically what Alex was saying here. So if you take their game away from, it's different ways of taking their game away. So if they're unidimensional, and you can take their game away, they'll just fall down.
Take their game and use it against them.
There's that too. I mean, a good example is Nick Salambien. He likes to post. He's got very good timing. I used to be really fast with my legs, but every time I went out, he would just step back and go, oh, I hate that. It was so pretty. All right? So I like to attack. He's going to let me. He's going to step back and hit me. But again, I was talking about a scenario where they were good at the attack and hitting. So counterattacking is probably the best, or attacking first. If you press attack, you're going to get an attack. So you need to do a setup, a quick setup. So that's one of the things you might want to practice is in 3 tempos an attack. What are you going to do? Bum, bum, bum! Successfully. All right? That's a good. Your opponent is a defensive fencer, and he or she is good at it. So here's a situation where we're identified Nick Salambien. He's really good at it. Give me a plan. No, you already gave me a plan.
Try to get one touch up.
Well, the thing is that he's really good at it. How do you get ahead?
With more
I
intention.
want to look for tactics here.
Second, third intention.
Yeah, drawing attacks from them.
That won't work because 0-0. I don't have to.
You should be able to have an attack that has a reasonable chance of working at least once or twice.
Okay, so what's the profile of a defensive fencer?
Similar,
Strong parent.
gives you a lot of time.
Well, let's talk about distance first.
They want to
They'll-
keep
they'll
wide
open the
distance
distance
and they back up.
They want to open distance up, right? So they're going to be backing up, backing up, backing up. And the distance is what really enables their defense. So you keep pressing and pressing. If you can get them back here, they can't. This is critical to their solution. You don't have to be in a hurry, too. Don't feel like you have to press them all the way back, but you don't give them an inch either. Not an inch. If they step back, you step in an inch. And you keep on walking back. And in 2 minutes, it may take you 2 minutes to get them back there, but by the time they get back there, you need that one touch. Once you get that one touch, you can change your tactics around and become defensive. That puts them at risk. Okay?
How about second and 10?
Get the first touch. Get every touch, but the first touch is the most critical touch. Then you control the strategy and tactics, yeah.
What do you do with the fencer who likes the fence back there?
That would be Jens Steffen. He likes to do that, and that's fine. But he lets you make a mistake. That's what happens. You get too aggressive. He's back there. You know he's cornered. Remember, I talked about the corner rat before.
He goes back there on purpose.
Yeah, he
As
does.
soon as he gets to the 2 meter line, he immediately retreats to the 1 foot off and 1 foot on.
Yes, he does. And what that does for you is you start thinking about, I need to push him off. Wrong answer. You need to fence him. He has limited what he can do by going back there, and it's a game to him. And what he depends on is you going, I'm going to get him. He's got more patience. He has more patience, and so when you go after him at the wrong time because you can't take it anymore, he hits you.
And it's okay to back out of that, too.
It is.
Because you got 14 meters.
If the score is 0-0, you can just wait here and go. By the way, non-combativity, what is it?
No one knows.
Yeah,
Changes every week.
No, it's
Mary.
Mary.
Mary, what's non-combativity?
No blade movement within a minute.
No blade contact.
No blade contact.
Yes, blade contact instead of movement. Distance is too long to hit with a badge lunge. That's 2 out of 3.
Is that a minute as well?
No. Within, yes,
Within
it's
a minute.
all, it's just, if you see that, that
Yeah.
that is an
There's
answer.
three
It's not a
elements.
minute, it's right away.
Yeah.
If-
Now, don't answer this question.
I don't know the third one, Scott.
That's okay.
No touches.
I really recommend that everybody read the rule book. Tom, have you read the rule book? Okay, exactly.
Toilets don't read rules.
Rules are good things to know because,
It's an
Tom, you're just like every other fencer. They haven't read it either until they get. Okay, so let me ask a question. Is there non-combativity in a 5-touch bout?
No,
Not anymore.
There was never in a 5-touch bout. It only happens in a 15-touch DE. All right.
it was an addendum, is that a 2006?
It's a 7. Bounce.
It should be in
All
there.
right. So what's in your wallet? So what skills do you have? What skills do you bring to a bouting situation, to a meet? That's what's important. Okay? It's better to be really good at a few things than to be mediocre at a lot. Mediocre just gets you hit. If you don't have one or two, if you don't have one thing that you're really confident on, if you get in the right place and getting to that right place, then you need to work on one. If you've got 2 or 3, you're in great shape.
Look it up in the index.
But if you've got 5 or 6 things, and by the way, or 10 things, and you're not good at any of them, you may look good on the strip, but you're not gonna win. You need to focus on something that you feel comfortable in doing, that's safe for you, that doesn't get you hit while you provide a touch. All right, so let's sit up. The exercise here is I want everybody to get together with another senator. I want you. They win. So the exercise is to pick a partner and get on the strip and with your notepad write down what your plan is going into the 15-touch bout. After 5 touches, whoever hits 5 touches first, you're going to go back to your end of your strip.